Hello everyone, this is Joel over here, and this is our 15th episode of a React series. And in this episode, we will just look into what is custom hooks. So, previous episodes, we have seen what is hooks, and we have seen two types of hooks, which is use state hook as well as use effect hook. So, in this episode, we will just see how to create our own custom hooks. So, basically, hooks is a special functions in React, right? So we will just create our own custom hook to use it in our application over here. So let's get started. Fine. Let's see why to use custom hook. So here in use effect, we have an logic, right? Which is getting an endpoints of an API and fetching it, and using this response, we are just finding an error. And if error doesn't exist, we are just converting into JSON, as well as we are just storing into data, and we are just using setter method to set the variables in our state variable. I mean the data in our state variables. And then if it has errors, we are just catching the error and we are just showcasing over there. Fine. This is for one particular component. I mean one particular endpoint of an JSON file. Okay. So now here, this is a one particular component we have used. Like say, if we have other components like users list or else purchase history or else some posts or else any kind of components other than cards. Okay. So when we are using other components, and if there is a need to fetch a data from other API endpoints, we have to write all this logic again. The logic is same. So if we write this again, then we enter into a redundancy. So React is used to write small lines of scripts, right? And it should not have any redundancy over here. To fix this, we are just creating our own custom hooks, simple like functions. What does function do? If some logic is keeps on gonna repeat it, example, we have a function which is gonna sum two numbers. We will have the function which has the addition logic in it, and we will call the function and we will pass those numbers as an arguments, and those function will receive those numbers and it will do the computation and it will return it back, right? So same way over here, instead of creating a function, we are going to create a custom hook over here. Okay, so now let's see how to create it. So now in src, which is in source folder, I'll just create a new file. So the file name is usefetch.jsx. Okay, so why use fetch? Because you can see in our cards.jsx, we have use state, whereas use effect. So in React, all these custom hooks will have the word starting from use. It's an unwritten rule, you can say, in React, basically. Okay, so we are just creating a JSX file with useFetch.jsx. Okay, so what we usually do when we start to create a JSX file, we used to create this function, right? Function, cast, name of the JSX file, and all these things. Same way, we have to do this function useFetch brackets. Okay, and it's gonna return something. Fine. And in return, let's keep it a empty fragment, and we have to export this. Export default use fetch. Okay, this is what we usually do when we immediately create a JSX file. But this is a component structure, but we are going to create our custom hook over here. So it should not be function. We have other syntaxes to write over here. So what is those? It is const, okay, use fetch equal to arrow function. That's it. And you have to export this. Okay, so const your JSX file name equal to an arrow function, and you're gonna export this. We have created a custom hook. That's it. This is a basic syntax. Without any logic, we have created our one custom hook right now. So now let's write a logic over here. So here we have use effect. Our motive is to write a custom hook such that when we pass an URL as an argument to our custom hook, it will do all the necessaries of getting APIs, endpoints, and getting the JSON file, and other logics will be happening. I mean, these error findings and then then block, catch block, all these things will be happening over there. Okay, so now I'll just cut this use effect. Now where is this cut? And use fetch, I'll just go and paste it over here. Done. Okay, so now you can see we are using some state variables, right? Set cards, set error. Okay, so now we have to import this state variables also. Okay, so I'll just cut this. Where is, okay, right click, cut, and use fetch here. I'll just paste this. Let me remove these lines alone. Okay, and I'll just close these tabs. Too much of tabs have been opened over here. Main.jsx also no needed. Okay, fine. So now since we are using the setter methods over here, we have used all the state variables over inside this useFetch.jsx file. Done. So what all things next should be imported? See, we are using use state over here as well as use effect over here. But still we didn't import those use state and use effect over here. So in cards.jsx, let me go right click, cut this, use fetch, and I'll just paste it over here. Okay, we have imported our use effect as well as use state over here. Now if we go and check our web page, nothing will happen over here because we have to link this use fetch over cards.jsx file. Fine. So now again we have to do a thing, because here you can see we are just using this uh where is this, yeah, we are just using this error which is in use fetch, which is this error, right? And same way this set dummy, okay, set dummy is right now it's we are not using it. And what all things we have, error cards, okay, even cards we are using over here, but these are not in cards for JSX, these are in use fetch for JSX. So basically we are using over here, but we don't have the state variables in cards for JSX, instead we have it in use fetch for JSX. So what can be done? So we can do return this all these state variables and we can get it over here. Okay, so now let's see how to do that. Return, I will pass it as a list over here. What are the things? Cards. Oh shit. Copy cards. Why is it a little better? I just type it cards, and we have dummy and error over here. See, all these things is being used, and dummy is not being used in a use fetch, but still let it be over there. Okay, we have returning this all these things, so we will just get it in cards.jsx over here. So how to get the same way? Const uh it is cards, right? Cards dummy, order should be same, error, okay, which is equal to use fetch. Okay, so now we have got all those return values over here using this use fetch. And one more thing, we have just used our own custom hook, so we have to import it over here. So import use fetch from what is this, dot slash, and it is from use fetch.jsx. Okay, so we have imported this. So now what happens, this card is being given over here and we are just returning it, and we are storing again in cards. So this cards will be used again over here. You can see the color coding has been changed right now. Same way over here, dummy will store a value and we are returning over here, and this should be stored over here, and we're just using it for the scripts. Same way error over here. Okay, fine. Now everything is good. Let's check our web page. You can see we got all our components over here. Okay, fine. But still this is not a proper custom hook, because we have hard coded our web URL, I mean the API endpoints. But as our use fetch method, I mean the hook should get an URL as an argument, and it should work for all the URLs. Example, if I need some other API points to fetch and get the details, what should I do? I should just do use fetch, and inside this I should pass the URL. If I pass this URL, I no need to write all this logic again, right? So we have to fix this issue also. So how to fix this? It's simple. Let's cut this URL. Okay, I'll just cutting this, and I'm just passing this as an argument. Okay, so if we pass an argument over here, as normal in function, what we do, we just use to get the argumented, right, in function. So we will just get it over here as a URL, and instead of this fetch, I will just type this URL. So what happens when you pass an URL over here, it will go and store in this URL, and we're just using this URL over here. Okay, so this is how you can use your custom hook to fetch your details. So now if you go and check a web application, still you won't see any changes happening because uh, we have just created a custom hook over here. We didn't work on any logics over here. And one more thing, since it's a normal hook, I'll just change these names around. Cards let be as a data, okay, and even this let it be as a data, data, and wherever we're using cards, we have to change it. I guess over here to data. Okay, okay, yeah, fine. And where else set cards over here, right? So set data, and then catch, set error, set timeout, use effect. I guess everything is okay. Works proper. Yeah. So that's it. This is a custom hook over here. So basically what we have done, we first step, we have created a JSX file which is useFetch.jsx. So in this, as a first step, you have to create a const name of your JSX file equal to, and you have to write it as an arrow function over here. Okay, at last you should enter this export default use fetch, because if you export only, you can import it from here. Okay, make sure of this. And next step, what we have done, we have copy pasted our use effect logic over here, and since this use effect is holding a setter methods, we have cut and pasted our use state variables over here, and for this use state we have just imported this use effect and use state packages over here from React. So next, again we have to return this data, dummy, error, all these things, because we are using it in card.jsx. So while we are returning this in card.jsx, again we are just getting this data from the return statements of useFetch.jsx, and from here we are just storing the values in cards, dummy, and error, and these variables is being used in further logic to showcase our web UI over here. That's it of custom hook, guys. Hope you understood this well, and let's meet you on 16th episode of our React series. Until then, stay tuned. Thank you.